fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. For your latest news and high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull. When you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report.
And welcome everyone to another Fish Report Live. It's Friday night at 8:30 and I'm your host, Craig Fissinger. And yes, we are live. No cameras tonight. We're audio only. We started these Friday night shows last week, and maybe you tuned in while we were all quarantined in home. You heard Russia Superintendent Mr. Steve Rose talk about how Russia Local School was dealing with the whole coronavirus situation. Well, tonight we're going to continue that tradition, and I'm awfully excited about our guest. He's been entertaining us locals around here for years with his singing and songwriting, including our very own Fish Report Live theme song that you heard here just a minute ago. We welcome to the program now Mr. Mark Cantwil. Mark, thanks for joining us here on Fish Report Live.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, I'm glad you decided to join us this Friday and not last Friday.
Exactly.
Originally, we tried to book you for last week,
yes,
but we found out it was your wife's birthday, so I think you made the right call spending that Friday with her and not with us.
Exactly. I think it was my best interest to it, yeah. But it's so funny because, I think I called you back, an hour later. I'm like, hey, dude, I just realized, because, we're dudes. I'm like, yeah, man, I'll be there. And then I looked at the date. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. Yeah, so it worked out well.
Well, one of the good things about this shutdown or this whole stay-at-home thing is actually you get to spend a little bit more time at home with the family, right?
That's been, it's so funny because we're all so busy, and our kids are so busy. And I think we've been playing so many board games to a point where we got burnt out on all the board games we had that we made a little Walmart trip to buy some new games, So when's the last time that's happened, right?
I found myself doing a lot of puzzles here lately.
Yeah, Janelle's the same way. I think Janelle's put 3 puzzles together in the last week and a half. But, it's been a very, very interesting time. That's for sure. But I think the plus of it is really the fact that it's forcing all of us to slow down a little bit, which, we all, we need to do sometimes. We're all so focused on what's in front of us and that next task, which is good. I think, it's just the way especially this area, we're raised to, work hard and play hard. And, sometimes we just need to take a little break and appreciate, what we have and what we've established, I guess,
Well, normally I'm not sure we could book you for a Friday because you're normally playing.
Usually, yes.
And, I want to talk about your online stuff here in just a little bit, but, let's talk about your live stuff. I guess prior to all this coronavirus stuff, how much were you playing, per month, let's say, and how many shows have you had to cancel as a result of this?
I would say, in the last 2 years, I've slowed down a little bit because, my son's getting busier. But with that said, I'm still playing anywhere from 5-6 times a month because, doing solo, you can play, when you're doing full band, usually you're playing either, Fridays or Saturdays. But when you're a solo artist, you can, you have a Tuesday, usually I'll play at 17 West once a month on a Wednesday. Thursday nights over at, Gilbert Station once a month. And that stuff kind of adds up. So where you're playing anywhere from, I usually average about 5 to 6 times a month. And, when you're doing solo, I find that you don't have to book real far in advance. Things kind of pop up, which is good and bad sometimes, but I've been very fortunate to, we live in a great community and there's places that, that are available to play like that. So I'm very fortunate.
Well, you work a day job like me, so this isn't your only paycheck, but the shutdown is affecting your income like many other artists and a lot of people have been affected by this, haven't they?
Definitely. It's one of those where I am very fortunate where, it's, we're definitely missing that extra income, but fortunately I do have a day job and, but there's a lot of my musician friends around, in the area and around the U.S. that, they're really getting hit because that's their main form of income. So they're doing a lot of live shows. I have a buddy of mine in Columbus who's doing something every night, like an hour and a half, and he'll put his, Venmo, is that right? Venmo and his, PayPal. So yeah, it's hard for everybody, and we all just hope and pray that, this will be over soon and we can get back to, some kind of normalcy.
Well, as a result, you have been doing the online thing, and let's talk about that a little bit. You, like a lot of artists and a lot of big-time vocalists, have been doing the internet thing. Yeah. How is that going?
At first I didn't know what to expect, and I remember the first night I did it, and it's kind of weird because I'm sitting on a chair and I'm looking at my phone and I see me, and that's really weird, you know. And if any, you know, you see me many times, I always stand up, and I'm very kind of physical. I move a lot, so and I find myself I move a lot in a chair. But I didn't want to. I wanted to keep it as organic and natural as possible. I didn't want to plug any speakers in. So I even the first show, I didn't even use a pick. I just kind of used, you know, because you know how, you know, you have in the studio, you're trying to figure out the balance of, you know, the mics, or, you know, if, you know, you have the acoustic, you don't want the acoustic to be louder than your vocals,
sure,
especially when you're going just, you know, totally acoustic. But that first night was really, really, really fun. And as you and I were talking earlier, I found that, you know, the first night I did it, I did all originals. I thought, okay, let's just do something a little unique. Let's do, and I planned on doing 2 hours. I think we did 3 hours. I did 26 originals, and I can't remember, gosh, it was over, like, at one point, I can't remember how many views, close to 5,000 views.
Wow.
And, the interaction of the people was amazing, because you know, when I'm looking at my, you know, the screen, and in my case, I was just using my phone, so it's a small screen. I have horrible eyes, which I should have got an iPad or something. It was a bad choice on my part. But I can only see like 3 posts at a time. So, but when I'm playing, I can't see anything. So in between songs, I'm trying to read these, and here, you know, if I see, you know, hey fish, you know, trying to call out people's names, it was really cool. And I found out, you know, it might have been more interaction from this online stuff than it shows. Cause, you know, say if I'm playing at cruisers, you guys are all listening, but you're all sitting there, you know, hanging out and, you know, talking as well. Where here, most of these people are just either holding their, you know, their phone, and they're just looking at me. So it seemed more intimate, which, you know, which sounds very, very strange, I know, because we weren't talking. None of us were, but, you know, I'm seeing these, you know, as in between songs, I'm reading these posts. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot more fun than I anticipated.
Yeah, that's an interesting point of view on that. I wouldn't have thought of that. I think about when you do a live show, maybe some of the energy that you get from the crowd,
yeah.
and I wouldn't think you could get that playing online, but
exactly.
It's a different type of interaction, I guess.
Yeah, and it's one of those where, because you definitely, you know, when you're playing live and you're having that interaction, but it was definitely in a different way. But like when I got done, and everybody loves hearing their names. So if, you know, if I see anybody, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, fish, you know, you know, then you're, you know, asking requests. And one thing I found is I would have to go back after I finished the show and read all the comments, because then people are like, are you going to play my request? And usually I didn't see it because it's going by so quick, you know, but, so like I said, I took last weekend off, but I think I'll do another one tomorrow.
So this will make, how many shows have you done so far?
This will be, the 4th, like, official show, but I did a few, like I went on the day after I heard John Prine passed away, which is one of my favorite songwriters. I did one song at like 12:30 around lunchtime. Just picked up my guitar and did, Angel from Montgomery, just for, you know, a little tribute. And that's cool too. You know, I mean, technology these days are amazing. I mean, our phones, the microphones on the video, I mean, we're pretty fortunate to be able just to hit play and, you know, and do our thing. So it's pretty wild.
I guess that was one of my questions. You talked about not having to plug equipment in or whatever. When you play online like that, is it as simple as just grabbing a guitar and turning your phone on, or is there a little bit more preparation involved than just that?
Well, it's a good question, and it's funny because, you know, before I did it, I was calling up some of my musician friends. You know, I'm like, you know, what are you doing? And I know, like, Rosenbeck, I think the first night I did my show, he did his, and I think he set up a PA like he was playing. Then I had a good buddy of mine, Steve Madewell, up in like around Toledo, Cleveland area. And he had more like a setup you have here, where he's plugging in and he's got this interface, this and that. So, but I've done enough FaceTimes with friends, you know, like doing songwriting, where I was pretty confident that I could get a decent enough sound with just hit and play on the phone and singing and playing, you know. And it was a little stressful first because, you know, you never know how your connection is either. You know, the first night we got lucky, and I don't think there was a long time or a freeze up. But the second week we did it, that we had a huge storm come in.
Yeah.
So I started like an hour late, and I think we got through. But if you watch it, you know, the picture was a little pixelated, you know. And I think that's kind of the nature of going live too, you know.
Well, I've been doing my show for 9 years, so I certainly know what you mean about that. And technology is awesome when it works, but when you have some problems, it can be a real bear. You and I were talking before the interview tonight, and it didn't dawn on me that you've been doing this for 30 years now. You said been a long time.
You're showing my age, man. You're showing my age.
Our listeners may not know this, but you and I are fairly close in age. We both went to the same school. Went to Fort Laramie, graduated from Fort Laramie High School there. I'm a little older than you. I'm a 1989 graduate, but I remember you from back in your early days. Matter of fact, I saw some pictures on Facebook, and I'm going to go way back here, but when you were with a band called Jester.
Oh, yeah, that was my first band. Oh, my goodness.
So I want to ask some questions about your history with music, and let's talk about those high school days at first. I mean, when you look back on those days, what do you remember the most about your music back then?
I can tell you almost play by play the first time that I met with Joe Mertz and Scott Wendell to have our first practice. And if we have enough time, I'll tell you the quick story.
Absolutely. We got all
So, you know how in Lord me, like if you're, underclassmen, like you're in junior high, say if you're in 7th grade and you got guys in 8th grade, all they want to do, they're going to give me a swirly or, some kind of initiation, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I was an 8th grader and, I was in Boy Scouts with, Ron Smith. You know Ron Smith?
I remember the name. I remember the name.
Yeah. And I just started taking guitar lessons. My brother, who's about 8 years older than me, he had bought me a guitar, cheap guitar for, he was in the Navy and he bought this cheap guitar at the Navy surplus store. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I started taking lessons, but I only had like maybe 3 or 4 lessons. So Craig, I knew like a G, I'm really excited that I'm going to be a rock star, but I don't know nothing, right? But of course I go to Boy Scouts and I tell everybody, I got a guitar, man. Taking lessons. I'm pretty proud of this fact that,
Sure.
So Ron's on the bus with Scott Wendell and Joe Mertz. And you know Scott and Joe, right?
I sure do.
And Joe was taking guitar lessons and Scott was a drummer and they were starting a band. And they needed a bass player. Well, Ron was like, I think Mark plays bass, which I didn't. I barely play guitar. So one day I get a call from Joe. He's like, hey, man. It's like I was talking to Ron, and I hear you play bass. I'm like, no, I play 6-string. He's like, well, why don't you just come over and see how it goes? So they're like, practicing on a Saturday or Sunday. So my mom and dad dropped me off over on, what road he lived on? By the cemetery. What's that called? Is that not Frame Ring? What is that?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh,
Frame Ring.
Yeah. And, so I walk down, I open up my case and I take my guitar out and Joe's like, hey, I thought you played bass. I said, dude, I told you I played 6-string. He's like, I thought you meant 6-string bass. And 6-string bass, even I don't play 6-string bass now. You get,
Yeah.
But long story short, we, they knew like Louie, Hang On Sloopy, all these basic songs. And then they had like 3 songs, song A, song B, and maybe song C, because none of us knew what we were doing. But we're sitting there, and every time they get to a G chord, I would hit a G chord. Every time they get to a C chord. And the whole time this is happening, his mom's walking down with, Pizza Hut, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Mountain Dew. I'm like, dude, this is rock and roll. Sign me up. And I remember that day. I mean, so we get done and I'm packing up my guitar and Joe looks at me and he's like, hey man, you buy a bass, you're in our band. 2 weeks later, I ended up scraping up $200 and bought a bass from this guy, Skip Flutter John from, New Bremen. And I'm pretty sure he ripped me off. I'm pretty sure it was only a $100 bass, but that was, that's how it all started right there.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit then. And eventually you get to a band called Renegade.
Oh, yeah.
And, those were the days I was going to, you mentioned Cruisers. It was Moe's back then.
Moe's, yeah.
Hanging out, listening to you in there.
Owls and Scudsies.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember how many years you were exactly with Renegade, but I remember when you left there, Mark, I'm thinking, what is this guy doing? He's on top of the mountain right now, and he's leaving. So, how many years were you with Renegade, and why did you eventually leave?
I was with Renegade from, you remember the band The Other Way I was
Sure.
with? Yeah.
Yep.
So after I was with Jester, well, we really can't count Jester. We played a couple teen dances and a couple parties, but we were god awful. But we had a lot of heart. We had a lot of heart, Craig. We really did. But that was in between. That would have been, like I said, I was in 8th grade, so 1990. You were a freshman in college.
Yep. Had a few years on you, like I said.
So in between my freshman year and sophomore year, that's when Scott and I hooked up with Mike Overholzer, Dane Nagel, and Sherry, back then Grummeyer, now Overholzer.
Correct.
And we did The Other Way from 91 to 93. 93, December 93, because it was my senior year. So basically, like from my sophomore year to senior year, I played with those guys. And at that time, I was dating a Ruchi girl, Laura York, which is cousins with John York.
Sure,
you know?
yep.
So, of course, you know, and around the springtime of 94, that's when Dan Poling was playing bass with them, and him and Gina were getting ready to get married. So, you know, and I think he was just kind of doing it just to, you know, help him out, you know. Basically, he'd just sit back there and drink his bud and chew on his
I remember that too.
Copenhagen, yeah. And so I think it would have been, and there was about 3 or 4 months where Dan was playing a few shows a month and I was playing a few shows, but I think I joined Renegade full time. Don't quote me on it. I think June of 94, and I left Renegade in September of 99.
Okay.
And the whole time I was with them, though, I was living in 3 years. I was in Columbus, and then I was 2 years in Findlay. So the whole time I was playing with them, I was driving back. And my whole tenure with those guys were great. Steve, John, and Nick, and Mike was playing for a while. They were all great guys, and I loved it. And, you know, back then, you'd play like the Wheel, all these bars, we felt like rock stars because these bars were just crowded. Yeah. You know, the walls were a little different back then.
I try to explain it to my kids now, and they don't quite understand that scene back then.
Oh, gosh, I mean, it's one of those things. I think I held out that long because it's like, oh my gosh, you know, you feel like a rock star. Yeah. It was like, you know, every weekend, and I'm not joking, every weekend it was a packed house. And we were decent. We weren't that great to have a packed house every weekend. Don't get me wrong. But no, it was just one of those where, I think when I was living in Columbus, I was also starting to get into that scene. And that's when I started getting into more songwriting, you know, and also I think I hung on longer than I wanted to. I was getting burnt out from driving back and this and that, but we had such a camaraderie between Steve, Nick, and John and I, you know, that we had such a good thing going too. And that was great money for a college kid, you know. So
sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you've done a lot since then, been with a lot of different groups and teamed up with a lot of different people. Eventually you started doing your own albums. Yeah. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Your career really took off, it seemed like then. You've played with a lot of national acts, and I'm looking at some of the names here, Mark, and guys that I recognize, like, you know, the group Sister Hazel, the Bacon Brothers, Kevin Bacon there, Darryl Worley, Brett Michaels, Molly Hatchet, Drake White. I mean, what a list.
I've been pretty fortunate.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Any good stories from any of those performances, or what do you remember the most about some of those stars?
There was a funny story about the whole Sister Hazel show. Let me go back real quick, though. When I left Renegade real quick, I was replaced by, you know, Matt Meyer from Versailles?
Absolutely.
And it's so funny. Matt was one of my best and closest dear friends at my wedding now, but it's so funny how that stuff works, you know? And, and he's like 3 miles down the road, you know? So it's, but I want to give a shout out to him real quick because it's like when I left and there was like a lot of, oh my gosh, you know, you guys can't be friends. I'm like, no, it's all good. It's not like I was kicked out.
Matt comes from a musical family.
Oh, he does, yeah.
And I know their some of his older siblings, a lot better than Matt, but, he's a great guy.
Oh yeah. And his older sister's married to Ken DeMange. So, you know, they got the whole,
Angie.
Yeah. So, some good people, but it's so funny how that works out. And Matt and I just become really, he's a good friend of mine. And then we work at the same place too.
Oh.
And when he started, his cube was right behind me. So I took a picture. I'm like, I swear we didn't plan this, guys. This is totally by chance. And everybody's like, whatever. Yeah. You know, the good old boys club. I'm like, no. But a funny story about the Sister Hazel. That would have been back in 2013 over at the Green. And for a while, the Green was having like once a year. Well, they'll have entertainment from like end of April till like the beginning of September. So every like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, there's usually, you know, some entertainment out there. And I remember I got a call to play the Sister Hazel show, and we were ecstatic. You know, it's like a year after I released my first solo CD. And at that point, I've already had like, you know, probably 25 different albums that I recorded on, but this is the first one I had of my own material. So it was, you know, kind of just a different, you know, a big step, you know, for musically. And so I took that, I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday, something really odd like that. I think it's what fit for Sister Hazel's schedule. So I took that day off, and I'm like, you know, making sure all my stuff works. I'm, you know, restringing my guitar, and I get a call at 11 a.m. from the sound guy saying, hey, he's like, we have a problem. He's like, Sister Hazel, he's like, 2 days ago they played in Albuquerque, and they had the, you know, day off, so the band flew back to California, but their road crew and their roadies were supposed to come to the show, but their bus broke down. They got it fixed, but they broke down again, so they don't have nothing. He's like, I have a list of stuff, and I'm hoping you can help me out.
Wow.
Yeah. So of course I'm like, okay, give it to me. What do you got? And of course all their guitar players, they want like a Gibson, Les Paul. They want a Gibson, SG. And the thing is, me and my guitar, we're Fender guys.
Yeah.
I got a Fender, Telly, and my, guitar players got a Stratocaster. So I ended up calling up Buff Francis for sales, borrowed his, Les Paul. I spent like 3 or 4 hours driving around, anything I didn't have personally, trying to find to fill.
Oh my.
And long story short, once it was said and done, we're looking up, and Sister Hazel's playing. The drummer's playing on my drummer, John Mager, his kit. I got my guitar amp up there. I got my bass amp up there. I got my acoustic amp up there, and he's playing, So everything they're playing is on our stuff. And they were so cool. So they get done, and, the rhythm guitar players say, hey man, we'll help you tear down. I said, dude, no, don't worry about that. I said, because you've been to the green. There's no kind of, and people are starting to close in. I said, you know what? I said, if we can get a group photo, we'll be happy. I said, you guys, get out here and do what you got to do, man. But they were very, very appreciative, but it was just so wild that, I look up and pretty much everything I owned is on that stage. And these guys are playing it, so, that was an interesting story. But yeah, I mean, I've been pretty fortunate, man. It's been a fun ride these last 10 years for sure.
Well, let's talk about the new album. That's something that came out here recently. When did the album come out?
It's not out yet. I released,
You've been giving me the scoop on some of this.
I know, yeah.
I thought maybe you had already released it.
No, we released a single back in last May, and I'm getting ready to release another single. And you know how it is when you're an independent artist, sometimes things go a little longer. And I'm working, with an old friend of mine from Columbus, Tom Boyer, and he's worked with a lot of different acts, nationally and globally. But he's a busy guy. So it's one of those where I told him to say, hey, we got to get this finished this year. But, we're getting ready to release another single to give us a little more time to finish up the album. But I'm really excited about, this is my fourth solo album and probably my 25th or 26th album in general that I've done in the last 20 years. And, but this one is, I feel is probably my strongest material wise and maybe just strongest, production wise, and also maybe the way the songs flow together, if that makes sense.
Those songs are now, do these songs come from personal experiences? Are they fictional? How do you come up with the material for your songwriting? That's
a good question. I think a lot of people, and I talk about this over my live internet shows. I think there's a misconception that a songwriter, everything they write is about them. And Craig, I'm just not that interesting. You know me, but I think it has to be a little bit of both. There's definitely songs that are very personal, and and usually those I don't like talking about a lot.
Sure.
You know how that goes.
Yeah.
But there's also, you have to, do you remember the song, The River by Bruce Springsteen?
Yeah. I don't know the lyrics to the River, but.
Well, that was the first one that he wrote that wasn't like kind of personal. And he wrote that about his sister and, his brother-in-law, and she ended up getting pregnant when she was 18, and they had to get married quick, But he said that was the first time that he had to, kind of step out and write third person, and I think as a songwriter, you have to do that sometimes. Cause I think I struggled for a while because I was trying to, trying to force these songs or, trying to write, and everything I was writing, I'm like, God, this is crap. I just don't like this, so sometimes you have to step out, and that's where, the whole art form comes in. Cause, I think being a songwriter is an art form. You have to, be able to step out of your own skin and relate, or either relate or put yourself in somebody else's shoes to tell the story, And,
well, I remember when you went from your debut album, Last Chance Johnny, to your second one, your sophomore album, Getting On You, and you were so excited. I thought you said something about maybe the production or the sound was just, maybe you produced it somewhere else different than your first album?
We did the second one. We engineered at the same place with my good buddy Colin Murphy, the fiddle player.
Yep.
Up in Michigan, at Murphtone Studios. And the first one we did everything there. And gosh, that album was a lot of just him and I too. I mean, he played we had a drummer, but gosh, he was playing. I played the bass, some acoustic, but he played rhythm. He played mandolin. He played lead guitar. So and that's a very special album for him and I, because that was the first album he did with his studio. But the second one we engineered there. Or when I say engineer, say you and I and the Fish Report boys, we go in and we bring our gear and we track what's called tracking the song. We play the song, and that's engineering. And then once you get the songs all done, all the parts done, that's where mixing comes in. And then mixing is kind of like, that's where you put on the lacquer or the shine.
Okay.
And then mastering is where you make everything sonically balanced. You know, like when you listen to your the radio in your car, no matter if you go to T102 or you go to like a hard rock station, it all sounds balanced.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. That's where the mastering comes in. It just makes everything, it balances everything and it makes it sound the same. So
this latest album, are you doing it the same way then?
A little, yeah. Well, this one I'm working with my buddy Tom Boyer. Colin's involved. Colin he was there with us. We all got together. I think it was November of 2017. It's been a while. It's going longer than we expected. But we all got in and we all played these songs live together. I was in one room. It was an old house. I was in the dining room singing and playing acoustic. And I could look over and I could see the drummer. And I could kind of see the bass player over here who was sitting on the couch, lazy ass. And then upstairs, there was Tom and my producer in the control room. And then this bedroom was Hoss. And then this bedroom was Colin. And we fracked all these songs in a weekend. And it was just an amazing experience. And I just wanted to try to capture that live feeling as much as possible. Now, I had to go back in and redo most of my acoustic and vocals just because of bleed through, all that. But it was, I wanted to just do something a little different. And also, I mean, all these guys that were involved, especially that weekend, are guys I've been playing with for anywhere from 6 to 10 to 20 years. So there was a lot of kinship there, a lot of friendship and just a lot of history. And that was very important to me, just to have those guys involved in this album. And, like I said, I think it shows. And, so we're looking in, Tom's doing the engineering and the mixing. And, for the first song, Pardon Me, we, worked with a guy, Brian Lucy. He's originally from Columbus, but he's been out in, California for the last 10 years. And this guy, I think right when I sent him Pardon Me, he just won a Grammy for the Greatest Showman. So it was cool to have this cat, in the liner notes, but he's got a great resume. And hopefully I can do the whole album with him if budget allows.
Are you ready to release the name of this album or how many tracks you've got on it?
We're definitely, I mean, we're going to name it Pardon Me. It's going to be the name of the album, like the title track.
Yep.
There'll be 11 tracks and we're getting ready to release, a song called, We're All Alright. That'll be next month. And, we're going to release it with a video as well as,
I love your videos, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
You do a great job with those.
Thanks, dude. That would be my buddy Pete Vogel from, Columbus, Ohio. What's the name of his company? Sorry, Pete. North Star Productions. And, Pete and I played in a band together back in, I think 99 to 2000, 2001. And, Pete's a very talented guy, multi-instrumentalist. Does video work and but yeah, he came down. Now this new video will be live footage that we got. It'll be me, Brett, and Tim from a show we played at BMI about a year and a half ago, opening up for Tom Kiefer from Cinderella. And so I've been talking to Steve from BMI, so we're hoping to kind of work together and kind of present that video and kind of get it out there as much as we can. So.
All right, well, listen, we've got plenty more to talk about. Let's take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to talk to you about one of the biggest venues you've ever played, and that's Country Concert right down the road here. I want to know your thoughts on whether you think that will happen this summer or not. So I'll give you a couple minutes to think about that. Yeah. We're live with singer-songwriter Mark Cantwil, and you're listening to Fish Report.
Shop local and save at Busher's Market in Russia. Busher's Market has great prices on fruits, vegetables, frozen items, seafood, and more. Make sure you check out their meat department with deli item specials. Busher's also has fresh store-made soups like chicken noodle, vegetable, and chili. Open 7 days a week. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Butcher's Market in Russia. Shop local and save.
Hey sports fans, this is Drew Cloud with Allstate Insurance. My team and I take a lot of pride in educating people on proper coverage and limits when it comes to your specific needs and how not having enough can leave you and your family on the losing side. Give us a call today at 937-506-4040 and we'd be happy to see what we can do for you. It's more than coverage, it's cloud coverage where you're in good hands.
Hey everyone, it's Craig here at Fish Report, and Cruiser's Bar and Grill in Russia offers a great variety of fresh food from their menu, from their delicious lug nuts to their homemade pork tenderloins. Stop in before or after the game with family and friends. Large screen TVs give you a great reason to watch sports while enjoying your favorite beverage. Stop in and enjoy the fun and atmosphere of Cruiser's Bar and Grill in Russia and tell them Fish Report sent you.
Made in the Shade Tents and Tables in Russia specializes in rentals of tents, tables, and chairs. These work great for graduations, birthdays, weddings, reunions, festivals, or sporting events. For pricing options or to make your reservations, contact owner Adam York at 937-726-4992. That's 937-726-4992, or email him at madeInShadeTents@gmail.com. Made in the Shade Tents and Tables in Russia.
The Jewelry Barn in Russia, established in 2011, is proud to give you the best quality and prices. They have a qualified staff to provide you with great custom jewelry and jewelry repair. The Jewelry Barn also offers ear piercing, watch battery replacement, watch link adjustments, appraisals, free jewelry cleaning, and inspection for worn prongs and loose stones. They are certified by the Gemological Institute of America in diamond grading and color stone grading, and also certified in jewelry repair. Come in and check them out at the Jewelry Barn in Russia.
Hanging out the fish report. Hanging out the fish report. Hanging out the fish report.
And welcome back to Fish Report Live. We are 6 feet away from local rock star, singer, and songwriter Mark Cantwil. Mark, you grew up in Fort Laramie, then you married a Russia girl. You lived here for a while. Now you're back in the Fort Laramie School District. And ironically enough, your backyard, or maybe it's your front yard, is home of one of the biggest country music festivals in the world. When did it become a dream of yours to someday play at country concerts?
Oh, wow. Probably when I started, but that's a good question. And it's one of those things I never thought it would be a reality, because I'd never really, my music kind of falls in this weird category. It's not quite country. It's not quite rock. It's not quite blues.
It reminds me of that song. It's a little bit of country, a little bit of rock and roll.
You know, and that's the only thing I can explain it is kind of Americana, you know, which, you know, definitely falls in the whole country concert. You know, they had, the Steel Drivers. They've had, Wool Hogue. They always have, you know, so I think I definitely fit in there, but also I was like, gosh, you know, I'm kind of a local regional guy. You know, I don't have any management. I just didn't think it would ever be a possibility. And I remember, when I got that call, that was, before the break, you said, you know, probably one of the biggest shows. It was definitely a highlight of my career. And I remember I called my mom started crying. You know, this is a concert. I think that they were at the very first one. Probably your parents were too. And there's just a lot of history. You know, we ran cross country out there. I mean, there's just, you know, it was just, one of the highlights of my life to not only play out there, but I remember the first year I played, I had a half-hour slot. And I was going back and forth. I'm like, okay, do I play all originals? Should I put a cover in there? And finally I decided, I'm like, you know what, it's a half an hour. I'm like, I may never get to play out here again. I'm just going to play my tunes, you know? And it was just an awesome feeling, man. It was just, definitely one of the highlights of playing music for the last, you know, couple decades.
Yeah, we saw you last year on the homegrown honky tonk stage, I think they call that. You've been in the saloon before. You're given a certain allotment of time, and then the rest is up to you.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I think, you know, it's one of those things where we have, you know, it's you know, on top of playing out there the last 2 years, I've also been running the new stage, the homegrown honky tonk. Yeah, basically, you know, providing PA and getting the band set up, and that's kind of one of the, you know, talking to Paul, it's anybody comes out there, you know, one of the, what's the word I'll look for, prerequisite is you need to have at least your own material. Mm-hmm. Now we realize if you're coming out there, you're a young artist. So I kind of the way I look at it, play 50-50, you know, at least, you know, make sure you're playing at least 50% of your material but also play some other tunes to give them a reference of, who you are. But it's country concert, so if there's any other venue it's going to be acceptable for you to play your tunes, it's country concert. It's like when we go say we go to the saloon and we see an artist that we may know only one of their songs, but we still sit there and we watch their whole set. And by the time we leave, like, oh, that was a great tune. That 4 song that she played or he played, that was amazing. And that's what's cool about country concert. And I always tell these artists, I'm like, look, I said, you're here because you have your own stuff. I said, so definitely, don't be afraid to play your music. That's why you're here.
Yeah. You hear some of those bigger stars. I remember Chris Lane and Dustin Lynch and Carrie Underwood one year playing some Aerosmith.
Oh, yes.
They play covers as well.
And who was, it was 2 years ago. What was her name? Maybe the Laura Elena or something. She played a Def Leppard tune. Yeah. And that's cool. And it's cool to play some reference songs like that, and especially it's country concert, but everybody loves the old school classic rock songs. I think we did, last year I had my fiddle player Colin and Scott Miller on guitar, and we did a kind of a country version of Motley Crue's Girl Don't Go Away Mad.
Oh my.
Yeah, yes, because we had fiddle. I'm like, fiddle with Motley Crue tune, and that's okay, but I think we still played, 3/4, original to cover, but that's the place to do it. There's some places like, like when you're playing White Oaks, everybody expects to hear locals play, the cover material. But on country concerts, so I tell people, I'm like, play your stuff. This is a great platform for you to get your music out. So by all means, play your stuff,
Well, country concerts coming up here in, what is it, about 2.5 months, something like that. And I've heard some crazy stuff this past week, Mark, as far as, I think there was a report out in Los Angeles, California, where they might not allow, major music events or sporting events until 2021. I thought I heard this week where maybe the fall of 2021 before a lot of concerts can be played. It begs the question.
Oh yeah.
What's your opinion? Do you think country concert will happen here in the 1st of July?
Well, let me start out. That's way above my pay grade. But I would venture to say like any, venue or even festival, they're probably going to hold out as long as they can. I know there's a lot of, I just heard that, like Poultry Days just rescheduled for, that's a local picnic just rescheduled for August, and so I think, I would guess to say that, they're all holding off as long as they can. But like you said, it's, I don't want to speculate or anything, but it's definitely something that everybody's thinking about.
I want to change subjects here a little bit. And, for years now, there have been these reality singing shows on television. Mm-hmm. And you've got American Idol that's been around for years, The Voice, America's Got Talent, to name a few. I wanted to get your opinion on what do you think these shows are after? I mean, is it certain stories they're after? Is it a combination of looks and talent? What do you think those shows go for? Because they're so popular, and there are quite a few of them on now.
And there are. I really don't watch them. I think I watched the first season or two of American Idol. And I'm not a huge reality show fan in general because I think what they're looking for is just easy ratings. I think it's for the networks, it's a lot cheaper for them to go that route than to pay these high-paid actors who are trained, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people like, my wife and daughters love reality shows. There's nothing wrong with that. But I guess, and there's definitely talent. You look at Carrie Underwood. She came from American Idol. Who was the other one? She was on that first Nashville.
Not Miranda Lambert.
Yes, Miranda. Yeah. And she didn't win actually. She was a second runner-up to that Buddy Jewel. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's and the people that are talented, but it's just like I don't know. I guess to me I'm kind of old school where I like those bands who just went out there and they worked. They play. I'm still local and regional, but I'm out there working and I'm out there playing, and I'm out there. It's just, and not saying I'm not taking any, but there's also, when you watch those reality shows, I've known a few people who've been on those shows and I know some of the people working the production. It's not like, it's not, that you think that everybody's staying in line for day, for all day. What they do also is those shows call around to song or like vocal coaches they know, like in big cities, say, hey, do you have anybody who's got, and they get a crop of people they know is going to be able to have the chops to go so far. And then they'll put them in the middle of the line for like 30 seconds or for 5 minutes, get the video of him standing there and take him out. So there's definitely a lot of smoke and mirrors going on with those shows too, that a lot of us don't know. And I'm not trying to be, but there's, I think it's good though. I remember I was watching an article with Vince Gill, and they asked him the same question. He's like, look, it's just a different era. And he's like, look, you don't think Jimmy Dickens would be standing out there with his guitar for, 10 hours waiting to get on there if he could? Yeah, it's you do what you got to do,
I wish you knew how many times I told my wife when I listened to a Luke Bryan song or maybe a Kenny Chesney song or something. I will tell her, Mark Cantwil writes similar types of lyrics where why does when Luke Bryan sings it or Kenny Chesney sings it, it's so big? Is it all about radio songs that they push? Why is their songwriting? It's not so much different than yours.
Not really. But the big thing is too, is like people need to realize there's a huge thing called songwriting credits and publishing credits. So say you own a publishing company, Craig Fissinger Publishing, and I write a song. And we get a hit. And when you look at the songwriting credits, Mark Cantwil wrote that song. But when it comes down, depending on the deal that you and I signed for the publishing, say you're in Nashville, you got you had the connections. So I'm this, guy from Fort Lauderdale, Ohio, coming in, talking to this Craig Fissinger from Nashville who's got the connections. And say, and depending, I know some guys who do publishing deals where, say if they have a hit, they'll get paid $30,000 a year to write 8 songs. But if they get one hit, they get none of that publishing rights. And the publishing rights, so look at the song The Gambler that we've been hearing for the last 40, 50 years. Yeah. Someone's getting rich. Now hopefully that guy made a good publishing deal where he's getting some of that money, But it's the whole thing where, look, I got the connection, so, I'll help you out, but I'm going to take 50% or,
It really is a business, isn't it?
It is a business, yeah. And a lot of times too, if you look at a lot of those, Song of the Years from, the CMAs, there'll be 3 songwriters. It's a factory, man. It's a factory. And I've talked to some of these guys and there's a line in Nashville, change a word, get a third. Yeah. And even there was one, who was it? The song Brad Paisley. I met, I played a show with a songwriter that, remember the song She's Everything?
Yeah. Yep. Which I thought was about maybe his wife.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and he ended up doing a partial co-write on that with, what was the name? I want to say Will Vance.
Okay.
I think it was Will. Gosh, I hope I'm not saying this name wrong. I'm sorry. I'm horrible with names. But he wrote the song for his wife. But, he got with, Brad, and Brad kind of put his take on it, but Brad being Brad only took he could have took a lot more of the percentage of the songwriting credits than he did, but he didn't. And, but he changed it to the dark hair or blonde hair to dark hair and, this and that. But yeah, so I think he did like a 75-25. He took 25 and he gave Will 75, which, a guy in his position probably could have did 50-50 or 75-25 at the other guy, but it really is it's definitely a business, man. It's definitely a business.
Well, now, every time I hear that song, I'm going to think of your story there. I'm going to lose the lyrics. I'm going to think of what you just
And you know what? I will send you, I have a copy of Will's original version of it.
Really?
And yes. And, but when I first heard the story, cause I heard it from his publishing, the guy, that owned his publishing company, he was making it sound like, that, Brad only changed a little bit, but Brad added she's everything I ever wanted. She's everything. He added that. I'm like, okay, that's more of a 50 because that's a huge part of the song right there. Yeah. So at the end of the day, that was more, I think they could have went 50-50, but Brad being, I think the good guy he is, still did like 75-25 or, and don't quote me on all this, how it's kind of, that's the bar still talk and stuff, but, but it's definitely a business, man. And a lot of times too, I remember I talked to guys and they're like, look, if you're going to be a song, you got to be here. You got to be, got to be in Nashville. You got to be where they're at, this and that. And,
hence why so many of those artists moved to Nashville.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, not only are you an artist, Mark, as we mentioned a little earlier, you're also a husband. You're also a father. You got 3 beautiful stepdaughters that I watched grow up here in Rushi. Yeah. You've also got a son with your wife, Janelle, that's in school right now at Fort Laramie.
He's almost taller than me, dude.
Well, I've seen pictures of him, and
it's crazy.
Looks like he's playing drums.
Yes.
So, any chance there's a future with you and him maybe in music?
I think it would be great. Yeah. It's, he's really into drums right now. Yeah. Took piano lessons for a while and I still try to get him down there. You know how, but he's a boy and the piano's not cool. You know, I think he'll come back to it, but he's all about drums and he's all about Luke Combs and Brother Osborne,
oh, yeah.
you know. So, but it's so funny. He'll go down there and I set up a little speaker. For a while he was, you know, like us wearing the headphones and trying to play. And it was brutal for me and Janelle because he wasn't able to hear what he was playing. So I went down and I set up a speaker that way he could plug in his little, you know, what do you call it, iPad or whatever, and Chromebook and play his songs. And but yeah, he's doing good and he's doing really well because at this point it's, you know, I'm not a drummer by no means, but I kind of showed him what I know, but mostly he's just going down there and kind of learning on his own. So I'm anxious once this whole, you know, quarantine to get him some lessons and he's playing drums in school band, so I think that'll help out a lot too. But he's doing great, yeah. It's awesome.
Well, you know, I'm always asking my 15-year-old son when he's going to be ready to team up with me and get together and do some shows. And
there you go.
He's been holding me off, but I'm hopeful that someday he'll join me. And I imagine the same dream is probably for you someday. Maybe you and your boy can play together for a little bit. But
you and Ross can do a little DJ.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like I said, he's kind of in the cool stage right now.
Oh yes,
so he's been holding me off here a little bit.
And if they're in the cool stage, that means we're not in that stage right now. You know,
you're absolutely right.
That's just the way it is.
And speaking of family, I understand at one point you were supposed to have a wedding coming up here maybe in a couple of weeks, and that's been postponed, huh?
Postponed. I think right now they're shooting for July 4th, but that may not happen either. You know, I mean, what a crazy time. Yeah.
Well, listen, playing guitar, singing, everything that you do, you make it look so much fun. And,
thanks, man.
I know that, I realize it's also a lot of work, like most things that look so much fun. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. What's been the toughest part of your music career so far?
The toughest part.
I mean, is it the hours? Is it the wrapping the chords up at 2:00 in the morning? I mean,
that's definitely not fun. Yeah. I mean, there's an old, musician saying that, you know, we play for free, we get paid to set up and tear down. And also too, you know, we're not getting any younger. It's like the stuff, I swear the stuff gets heavier every week. I'm like, for the love of Pete. And, I don't know. It's like,
you and I talked about this before we came on here tonight, and you know, you've been doing that for 30 years. I thought 9 years of doing our show was a long time until you mentioned your 30 years of being a musician. There are some points where you just, you know, you need a little break, don't you? You just need a little time off. Just like working your day job, you need a little vacation every once in a while.
When, we were forced to, you know, kind of cancel some of these shows, I wasn't totally heartbroken. I mean, it was like, that break was kind of nice, you know, and I guess sometimes you need force to slow down sometimes because we're all just so, you know, we go to work, especially in this area, we're raised to, you know, keep going, you know, we got to keep the fire burning. But I've learned, like, you know, I started a new venture. I've always messed around with drums, but I got a drum kit for Caden. I decided that I wanted to finally start learning some tunes. So I went down there and did a little video, and it's been, I'm really horrible, don't get me wrong, but it's been a lot of fun just to have that time to, you know, where I don't have to focus on learning a song or writing a song. I can go down there and, you know, plug in the old phone and, you know, play a tune or try to learn a tune, and it's been a lot of fun.
Finally, wanted to know what your future plans are. You know, you seem to have done so much already. What's left for Mark Cantwil and his music?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I definitely want to get this next album out. That's the main focus right now. Like I said, when you're an independent artist, sometimes things go a little longer than you planned. Cause, you know, I mean, I'm the guy who, you know, books the shows. I'm the guy who writes the songs. I'm the guy who books, you know, and after, you know, there's only so many hours in a day, you know, and I would love to have a management company to take care of that. But also when you work with good people, they're busy too. So you're working not only with your schedule, you're working with their schedule and this whole, you know, pandemic that happened. But I think, like I said, we're getting ready to, release this, new single next month. But yeah, I think the next goal is to get this new album out and just kind of wait till things clear up and start playing some shows again, you know.
All right, awesome. Well, listen, Mark, I've always enjoyed talking with you. Like I said, kind of grew up with your music, and now it's part of the Fish Report
I know,
show,
right?
so how cool is that? But I hope you enjoyed tonight's interview as much as
man.
I did.
Well, you and the Fish Report guys have been always great, man. Especially yourself. You've always been very supportive from day one, my first album, and I appreciate that so much, man. You don't, gosh, I don't know if I can express how much. It's when you're doing this independently. Any support's great, and you guys have always been there, so I appreciate it.
All right, well, we thank you as well. I'll let you get back to your quarantine with your family.
You know it, brother.
Yeah, thanks for being with us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you perform online. You said next week?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow
night,
okay.
8 o'clock.
All right,
yeah.
and folks can tune in for that?
Facebook, yeah. Go on Facebook at 8 o'clock, and just hit my page, and hopefully you'll see my ugly mug pop up, and we'll have some fun for a while.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll get back to seeing you in person sometime really soon.
Well, I think I have some cruiser shows, but we'll see. We don't know. As of now, Barb hasn't canceled me yet, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us here tonight at Fish Report Live. We want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to another great interview coming up next Friday night. You can look for more information about that in the days to come on the Fish Report website. Until then, have a great weekend, and good night, everyone.
Hanging at the Fish Report. 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 For your latest news and high school sports, tune in to the Fish Report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull when you tune in to the Fish Report. Hanging at the Fish Report.